So you guys just saw me take apart the door car on the E30, and the reason I did that is because ever since I've owned this car, the passenger side window has never worked, and I have my suspicions that it's the motor, and I'll tell you guys why. I'll pretty much walk you guys through diagnosing how to tell if it's the motor or if it's the switch or maybe something else. But yeah, as you guys just saw, it's not very difficult to take the door card off of these cars. Literally probably one of the simplest I've ever done. But essentially all you do is first you have 3 screws holding on the handle, like the actual door handle. Then after that, the bezel that just kind of covers this piece, it slides to the right. I was trying to pry it off because I couldn't remember how it went, but basically it just slides this way and then off, and same thing when it goes on, just slides on. So pretty simple there. You do have to take off the tweeter, and usually what that means is that you're gonna break the cover for the tweeter. I've already broke it before, so like I said, I wasn't worried about that. I super glued it together, and I might get a new cover, I might not, but we'll talk about that later. Don't forget the little cover on the door lock, because I did, and you can't get the door card off without taking this off. It's just too fat at the top. So once you get that off, then all it is just push clips, 3 on this side, or 4 on this side actually. 4 on this side. Looks like 3 across the bottom, and then another 3 across the other side. So yeah, not too difficult, honestly. But yeah, let's get into diagnosing, or show you guys how I figured out that it's more than likely going to be the motor. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is turn the ignition switch on so we have power to the switches. Alright, so now that we have power in there, let's go ahead and test these. So the driver's side, obviously I know it works. When we click the passenger side, nothing happens. A more foolproof way is to actually pop these out and swap them over, because they're the exact same switch. So alright, and we'll swap it over to the other side. This one would be presumably the bad one if the switch was actually the problem, right? But Windows still works even with this switch, so I know that this one's still good. But I'll put this one in here just in case, just for good measure, right? And still nothing. But I do hear the clicking on that motor, so the motor is more likely going to be the issue. But you guys can hear that clicking in the motor, so let's go ahead and take it out. Usually what happens to these motors is that they'll get a little gummed up and the motor won't want to spin anymore. So we'll pop it open to see if that's the case. If it ends up not being the case and we need a new motor because the magnets on the inside are destroyed, then we'll order a new one and we'll replace it. But I want to try this first because obviously it's free, so let's take a look at it. The first thing that we need to do is remove, so it may just look like it's being held on from the front, and it is being held on from the front technically, but it also has 4 Phillips head screws in the back. Let me see if I can show you guys real quick. But we have 4 of those screws, 2 across the top and 2 across the bottom, and then these 3. To get to those ones in the back, I think I'm going to use a 1/4 inch ratchet and a 1/4 inch socket, along with one of those little bits that have the Phillips head. I think that's going to be the only way you can actually get anything in there. You might be able to get a little stubby screwdriver back there, but yeah, got that. So yeah. probably fall off like that. Oh, but before we actually take this off, let's go ahead and I'm gonna tape the window to the actual frame so it doesn't fall, just in case, because I don't want to crack a window. Just a piece of tape there, and we can take the final one out. Okay, and now the only thing holding it is if you push this, you should be able to, yep, it'll pop out. Just pull on this, and you should be able to separate it like that and pull it right out. So with that being said, if you want to do a bench test, you can with these. All you do is put power to one side, ground to the other, and the motor should turn one way. You do the opposite and it'll turn the other way, but not really too much to them, honestly. It's just a standard electric motor. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. Should be a couple of T25s. And then this should separate. Alright, so on the inside nothing really looks bad. If we turn this, it's still turning, so we know that this part's good. So our issue is more likely going to be, like I said, in the actual motor part, which is good because mechanical parts, I mean, as long as they're not broken, they'll work, you know. So now on here, like I said, the little gear will turn, and that in turn turns that bigger gear, and the bigger gear attached to the smaller gear, so the smaller gear will turn. Pretty simple, honestly. Like I said, there's not really much going on with these older style motors. Let's go ahead and disassemble this. Separate this. This is just a little plastic insert, so I usually I'll pull it out. Oh, don't forget to cut the tape if it does have some tape. Alright, it should slide right off. And yeah, it's really dirty, but these brushes look pretty decent, so essentially it's just like an electromagnet. Now you should be able to pull this out. So I pulled it out of the casing. The little ball should not have come with it, so that essentially tells me one big thing is that, yeah, it's seized. So this should actually be pretty much like this one. It should be just a rod and then riding on this little ball. So let's see if we can get it off, but if we can't do that, then we'll probably have to buy a new one anyways. So we'll see. The casing's actually really corroded, so we might have to just buy a new one. Alright, so we got it about as clean as we possibly can. This side, I mean, both sides, both of these little stubs here should look about the same, but I mean, this is about as clean as it's gonna get. It was completely corroded, as you guys saw previously, but cleaned it up. Use a little bit of electromotive cleaner just so we don't have anything spark or anything, since it is non-flammable. But cleaned it up, like I said, as best as I could. Also going to add a little bit of grease right here so that it spins freely, doesn't corrode, as well as up here and on the little worm gear as well. But let's put it together and see if the motor spins now. Just like that. Use the plastic pick because if you use anything else, it's gonna stick to it since it's magnetic. But yeah, pretty simple. I just gotta tap this in a little bit so it sits a little bit further down, and then we can throw it onto the actual to the other gear part. That should be good enough. Now just throw a little bit of grease on the worm gear, make sure that it spins freely, no binding or anything. And should be able to just so back together. Let's go ahead and plug it in and hear if it works or not. Yep, looks good to me. Everything is functioning, so now we can put everything back together. It's actually kind of funny because all this money I spent on this car to turbo it, you know, redo the suspension, redo everything, and I guess a $60 motor is where I draw the line. But hey, I'm gonna take it for what it is. A win is a win, and yeah, honestly, I'm pretty happy I didn't have to buy a new one.